Oh, okay. Okay. Hello, everyone. It's nice to have everybody here. My name is Dave Sauerwein, and I have a couple of things I wanted to introduce to you before we begin our webinar. On behalf of the Orientation and Transition Programs, I want to welcome you to the Wednesday webinar series. And Wednesday webinars are designed to help prepare you for your arrival at UVA. You can tune in over the summer to learn more about the resources and programs available before you get to grounds. And I wanted to share a couple of general reminders. One is that many deadlines are coming up in the new student portal. Make sure that you are staying up on your tasks so that you are ready to roll for the fall. And you can access the new student portal from the website orientation.virginia.edu. Also, make sure you are checking your UVA email regularly. We communicate directly with students, so it's important that students are keeping an eye on that inbox for some important messaging. It is essential that you take ownership over your college experience, and that's one way to do that is just following up on your email. That said, if you have questions for us, you can always email us at orientation@virginia.edu, and we'll be happy to get you connected with the answers you're looking for. Okay, two more things to remember. Recordings of this webinar will be posted on our website, again, orientation.virginia.edu. So if you missed something along the way or need to hear it again, you'll be able to find it. And that'll be in the next week, and we'll live there for the remainder of the summer. And if you have a question at the end of the webinar that is not answered by our presenters, feel free to reach out to their respective office directly. So without further ado, I'm happy to introduce this evening's presentation. Our friends from the Batten Admissions Office are here to talk about all they provide for students during the school year. We understand you may have some questions for their team. Please utilize the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen to ask questions at the end of the presentation. And we're so glad to have you with us tonight. Enjoy and take it away.
Thank you so much, Dave. Let me get my slides up. Let's see. Okay. All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Ann Carter Mulligan. I am the Senior Director of Admissions at UVA's Batten School, the Frank Batten School of Leadership and Public Policy. Thank you so much for tuning in. As Dave mentioned, this program is intended to introduce you to our school, prepare you for some of the actions you will take over the next few weeks, namely course enrollment if you're interested in Batten. We would love to see you on grounds when you're here for your summer orientation session. So we'll be hosting information sessions each session where we'll go into more detail about the school, our programs. We'll give you an opportunity to hear from a current student. So definitely check your schedule on the orientation website. The events are also on our own Batten School website, batten.virginia.edu. Except for the transfer sessions, which are later on in the summer, all of our programs will take place in our building, which you can see on this slide, Garrett Hall. So I hope you'll join us. So this afternoon, my colleague Estrella Burks-Parra and I will share a few slides. We'll answer your questions. Feel free to put those into the Q&A box at any time. We'll turn to those later. Before I dive in earnest, congratulations. This admissions cycle was incredibly competitive. I heard from my colleagues in UVA's undergraduate admissions office that they read more applications than they ever have before, and they were so impressed by you. So you have passed a very high bar. We are so excited to welcome you to grounds in the next few weeks. So there are quite a few ways to study public policy at UVA, maybe perhaps more than you might even initially expect. We like to say at Batten that policy is truly everywhere. So you can study history, economics, data science, you can study a foreign language, you can be on a pre-health track or a pre-law track, and you will be prepared for an eventual career that grapples with public policy in some way. As you think about what you might like to study at UVA, I want to bring your attention first to a couple of specialized policy majors that are actually in the College of Arts and Sciences. In addition to our undergraduate major at the Batten School, you can seek out more information about these majors from your academic advisors, from your orientation leaders. There will be lots of opportunities to learn more about them over your first few semesters when you arrive here this fall. The good news is you really don't have to major in policy to eventually work in policy. It's not like architecture school, for example, where you have to become a licensed architect so that you can practice. I dare say you will grapple with policy in some way, either implicitly or explicitly, in whatever you go on to do next. So in terms of these particular majors, lots and lots of opportunities are possible. You can combine programs into a double major. So for example, you could major in Spanish and foreign affairs and then move on to a career in global development. At UVA, you can design your own interdisciplinary major, which is very cool. You can pick up a minor or two minors. You can major in the Batten School, of course. The combinations are really endless to explore public policy and related fields further. In fact, you can study in virtually any major and take open Batten courses from that major at our school. And then even thinking down the road further, if you're really interested in policy, you can think about Batten on a graduate level. So you can earn a Master of Public Policy at Batten as well. So for the next couple of slides, Estrella and I are going to focus on some of the things that we think make our own offerings unique. But please know, as you're beginning your exploration, that you have a lot of choice as you are preparing for your next couple of semesters.
So, like Anne mentioned, there are a lot of different ways to study policy at UVA, but the really exciting news is that you have some time to really explore all of those different options. So, Batten is an upper school at UVA, meaning that students typically join our programs during their third or fourth year. This is a general model at UVA where you explore your first 2 years while completing your general education requirements, and then most majors are something you declare or apply for during your second year. At Batten, our degree programs are application based and competitive, and they focus on leadership, policy, and equipping you with the skills to create lasting and impactful change. Batten wants to educate and train the next generation of policy and citizen leaders to act on behalf of the common good. We do this through a unique focus on both public policy and leadership, which means that you'll get the best in class knowledge and access to cutting edge research about policy formation. You'll get to build skills in data analysis, but will also help you cultivate a leadership portfolio, which will include how to analyze group behavior, negotiate, and navigate conflict, how to solve problems, how you can be an effective communicator, as well as a critical thinker. It's a very practical degree that leads to a wide variety of professional outcomes. This is a bit of a differentiator from the other policy-related majors that we mentioned. In ours, you're going to focus on implementation and really building those real-world skills. So you're getting that applied knowledge. We are a pre-professional school, so we place a lot of emphasis on helping you build skills to get employed post-graduation, even though we know that's 4 years away. But on the next slide, we'll talk a little bit more about some of our outcomes. So we've found that sometimes it can be helpful to work backwards from where our grads end up when talking to prospective students, just to help them wrap their head around where Batten can lead you. So here are some examples of the different types of careers that our graduates embark on. Batten has great employment outcomes across a wide variety of sectors. Our Batten grads don't only go to work on Capitol Hill, though many of them do. Instead, they end up across the world working in various fields. About 50% of our grads of the graduate program, which is our Masters of Public Policy, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a few slides, end up working in government roles. But for our BA employment, the outcomes are much more diverse, with more grads working across sectors or going on to graduate school. Many of our undergraduate students will go on into the private sector or consulting. That's both private and public government sector consulting. And our graduates also enter direct government service, business, nonprofits, research institutions, think tanks, service orgs, as well as grad school, particularly law school. I'm sure some of you might already be thinking about what those next steps might be, and we know that law school is a very popular path. In any given year, about 10% of our graduating BA students will will go right on to law school, and they end up at wonderful schools. And those numbers tend to increase as students work up a few years of experience after graduating. Batten really does help you cultivate a really transferable skill set for a career in policy or law or business or really anything else that you want to study. In our programs, you're going to learn to develop strong analytical and critical thinking skills, professional writing and project management skills, and you'll become a proficient and persuasive public speaker. Location-wise, our top destination is UC, as I'm sure many of you might guess, but we also see our grads going to work on Wall Street and Silicon Valley and working abroad. A sampling of some of our destinations include federal consulting, so places like Deloitte or Accenture, but also private consulting, so McKinsey, Goldman Sachs. We see our students going on to work at multiple federal agencies and in Congress, going on to grad schools like Harvard and Columbia Law, further grad programs at places like Princeton or Carnegie Mellon, going on to work at think tanks like the Center for Public Impact, the Institute for Women's Policy Research, or the American Enterprise Institute. They go on to work in the armed forces and mayor's offices, the UN, global development, and the list really goes on and on. Last year, we had one of our BA students go on to win a Fulbright, and one of my favorite stories is we had a graduate go on to actually do data analytics in the Major League Baseball. So again, lots of things that you can do with a Batten degree, which really kind of brings home the final point for the slide, which is bottom line, there is a big cross-section of industry and government public service represented in where our grads end up, because Batten helps you to develop a curriculum that's responsive to your particular interests and a toolkit that really prepares you for what comes next.
So we have 4 programs open to undergraduates at UVA. These 2 that you see here, the Accelerated Master of Public Policy and the Bachelor of Arts in Public Policy and Leadership, are our degree programs. So you will come away from UVA with a diploma from the Batten School. Both require application, and they admit students through a competitive process. Our graduate path is the Master of Public Policy. So we are able to accelerate that degree for University of Virginia students. We also have a traditional 2-year postgraduate program, but the accelerated track for UVA students is for students who major in something else, not relating to Batten. Likely you would pick a major in the College of Arts and Sciences. That curriculum really transitions well into the Master of Public Policy. You start taking Batten courses in your final undergraduate year. You graduate with that degree. You do a summer internship that our career advancement team helps you find and helps you land successfully. And then the final year is all graduate work at Batten. So students typically apply into the program in their 3rd year. You have to hit 90 credits before beginning the program, and that's simply to ensure you can graduate with your undergraduate degree in time. We have found that lots of students come in with a ton of credit, AP, dual enrollment, advanced credit. So you can pursue the program on an expedited timeline. That's kind of why we start with it first, because so many students come into UVA with a full year of transferable credit and are able to expedite things. So they apply in their 2nd year, which is hard to fathom, grad school, preparing for grad school as a sophomore in college. Begin the program in the 3rd year, receive their undergraduate degree in 3 years, and then do just a 4th graduate year at the Batten School. You should come talk to us. If you're eligible to do this expedited path, there are some trade-offs. We can talk about whether it's a good fit professionally, and we can tell you how to prepare for application. The grad path, relative to our undergrad path, is a heavily quantitative program. So we want to make sure you can use data to advance a position. So you'll take courses in behavioral economics, in research methods and data analysis. So there's lots of stats, and social psychology, which is where our kind of leadership curriculum, the underpinnings are in behavioral science and an understanding of why humans act in the way that they do and how you can compel them towards desired outcomes. And then through electives, you study the policy areas that are most interesting to you. It is definitely a professional degree. It's rigorous. It's a deep dive into policy. It's for students who know they want to concentrate on influencing the policy sphere in some way in their next immediate professional steps. By contrast, our one undergraduate major, the Bachelor of Arts, if the grad program is really an immersive deep dive into policy, the undergrad major can be considered more of a generalist curriculum, an interdisciplinary look at policy, more from the perspective of how to effectively engage in the world as a citizen. So it similarly includes coursework in policy, in leadership, in some economic analysis, multidisciplinary contexts, so the ways that ethics and history and law all intersect and shape policy. And then through the policy elective, similarly, you study those policy areas that are most interesting to you, whether that be education or health, national defense and security, effective legislating, international development, environment and sustainability. We have a whole host of policy areas where our faculty have expertise that you can explore further. The program ends with a capstone experience where you apply all your learning to a real world policy situation. So, again, we're really helping you develop some real world problem solving chops. And you end up being a really good consumer of information. You'll have public policy knowledge. We'll give you the tools so you can be a really good critical thinker. You can analyze problems. Students are really good at being project managers. They steer projects towards effective outcomes, which otherwise really prepares you for really robust participation in your public life and your professional life as you think about your next steps.
Over at Batten, we like to say that policy really is everywhere, no matter your major. So if you end up deciding to major in something else at UVA, we have two minors as well for students to consider. So the public policy and leadership minor, as well as our social entrepreneurship minor. Both of these programs require application, but are simply a quick check of your academic transcript to ensure that you've taken the prerequisites and are prepared for the curriculum. So all eligible students are admitted into both of these programs. The public policy and leadership minor is 18 credits, and it's a great way to supplement your primary major in another school with policy and leadership. This minor takes a look at broader issues in the policy realm with the goal of making you fluent in the language of policy and the ways that it intersects with your chosen field of study. The social entrepreneurship minor is only 15 credits, and it's a pan-university program that allows you to take electives across many different schools at UVA. It's part of the larger entrepreneurship minor, which is housed over at McIntyre, which is a commerce school. And our social entrepreneurship track is for students interested in impact investing, entrepreneurial approaches to global development, and equity-based leadership. In these classes, you'll use design thinking to create the most innovative solutions to solving real-world problems.
Okay, so looking towards the fall, on your task list, one of the first things you'll be doing as you're preparing for enrollment is thinking about fall classes. Here's a little bit about the classes that we require for students who are interested in our paths. Each of our programs has prerequisites. That is, classes you have to complete before moving forward, before joining a program. Most majors have prerequisites. These prereqs are really the only classes you have to take prior to enrolling in Batten. So I get asked all the time, what should I take? How to be the most competitive for admission? Truly, this is it. These are the only requirements. The good news is they are also often prerequisites for lots of other majors at UVA. So they are useful credits, really, no matter where you end up. Our prerequisites can be taken all the way up to the semester that you begin at Batten. So if you can't enroll in them immediately this fall, no worries. I know first semester, first year course enrollment can cause some anxiety because lots of classes are full. You can join lots of wait lists, but you might not move off of those. Rest assured you have some time. And in fact, some of our courses are already on wait lists, which you can join and which you may be able to access immediately. There's a lot of movement as course schedules shift around. So it's always a good idea to get on a wait list and then kind of see what nets out. So here are the requirements. You must take microeconomics and social psychology for our undergraduate programs, the major or the public policy and leadership minor. Um, that LPPL 2600 course is our Batten specific version of social psychology. It's called Foundations of Behavioral Science. You can take either. You also must take Introduction to Public Policy as a prerequisite for the Bachelor of Arts. That course, Intro, is also a core course for the minor program. So it's a good class to take to help you kind of figure out which track might be better for you. In all prerequisite courses, you have to earn a C or higher. For our social entrepreneurship minor, you should enroll in ENTP 1010, which is a class on startups, how startups work. In fact, you'll get to think about developing your own startup course. And that kind of helps you gain access to that minor entrepreneurship minor track. On the graduate side, microeconomics and a calculus-based math are the requirements for the program. That's a good signal to you. And remember, we mentioned it is a quantitative degree. Definitely a lot more kind of analytical thinking, more pure math, more applied math, as you use math to kind of analyze data, understand data, and propose policy solutions. It's possible to use AP credit to fulfill any of the prerequisites as long as you receive a direct equivalent credit for the courses that are listed here. But for the MPP in particular, we like to see you take a math course at UVA to demonstrate proficiency and readiness for graduate level quantitative work. So if you intend to use that AP calculus credit that you've earned in particular, you can consider maybe a stats course, which will also give you a nice foundation of knowledge and prepare you for the analytical coursework of the graduate degree path. Outside of the prerequisites, my general advice for your first few semesters at UVA is really to focus on fulfilling your general education requirements and to explore. You really never know what's going to click for you until you give it a try. So take a wide range of courses. Try out something you've never had access to before. Try out something you have a sneaking suspicion you might love. Try out something that you're pretty sure you won't actually love, because it helps you understand the kind of full body of choice and opportunity that you have available to you, and it'll help you start to figure out what you do want to do. Batten's general education curriculum is the same as the College of Arts and Sciences, so continue to make progress towards fulfilling general education requirements in your first few semesters. In particular, it's smart to focus on foreign language if that's part of your gen ed requirements before coming over to Batten. You're actually switching school of enrollment over to the Batten School, leaving the College of Arts and Sciences if you join our major. And so it can become a little bit more difficult to enroll in the college's upper level foreign language courses. Only for some. Some you will not have an issue. Typically, we find a solution, but that's one to keep in mind. It's good to make sufficient progress in your first earlier attempt at UVA. If possible, we ask that you complete Batten's prerequisites prior to the semester that you would apply for one of our programs. So that's typically the beginning of the spring semester for your second year for the undergraduate major. Historically, spring semester of your third year for the accelerated MPP, though you might be backing that up if you're thinking about the early path. All that does is help the admissions committee think their teeth into more data about you. So we'll be able to see that grade from your prerequisite in your transcript. Certainly not a deal breaker. We admit students all the time who have the class going on in progress at the point of application, and we simply offer admission conditional upon completing that prerequisite. But that does leave a little bit of a gap in your application materials that you'll have to balance out with something else that's awesome and compelling and exciting about you to help us get to know you from an application standpoint. I mentioned this already earlier. I mentioned AP credit. It counts as long as it transfers in as equivalent course class transfer credit, equivalent transfer credit for a particular course. So not general transfer credit, but Econ 2010 credit, for example. Think about a stats course or a college level math course if you're thinking about the accelerated program. And then finally, consider taking one of Batten's electives that you'll see in the next couple slides. You shouldn't take more Batten courses because you want to be more competitive for admission. We hear that a lot. What we want you to do is explore topics fully that are interesting to you. See whether our coursework is something you enjoy. See if our programs could be a good fit for you. One reason you might consider knocking out some electives early is you might find as you get to know UVA and all that it has to offer that you have more complicated academic goals. So, you want to major in Batten, but also study abroad or double major or double minor. That's a situation in which you might consider taking a couple more Batten courses early to make space in your final 2 years so that you can focus on some of those other academic goals that you have. However, conversely, on the other hand, it might make more sense to focus on some of those other goals first, and then focus on Batten's requirements. So keep in contact with your academic advisor when you get here. They are really, really helpful, particularly in your first 2 years. Then you kind of get funneled more towards school and department advisors, but they can really look at you and your interests and all the varied courses that you're taking or considering and point you in the right direction. As we think about the classes that we're about to tell you, anything taken above the 3,000 level can be applied towards our curricular requirements. So that's a way to kind of get ahead on some classes. But you should keep in mind that the College of Arts and Sciences has a credit rule that requires 108, this is getting real nerdy, 108 of the 120 credits required to graduate have to be taken in the College of Arts and Sciences, if you remain in the College of Arts and Sciences. So that Batten coursework that you try it out, or the Commerce School, or maybe data science, none of that necessarily will count towards your in-college credit requirements. Just something to keep in the back of your head.
So here are the Batten courses that are being offered this fall that you might want to enroll in or consider enrolling in. It does bear repeating, as Anne just mentioned, there's not necessarily a competitive advantage to taking extra Batten courses in advance from the evaluation standpoint, but it is really helpful to see your performance in some Batten coursework if your prereqs are still in progress at the point of application. Most importantly, though, what taking any of these classes will do is give you a sense whether or not these are a program that you would want to consider continuing in. And strategically, if you do end up deciding on Batten, it helps clear a little space up in your third and fourth year, which is really nice. Couple of notes on these classes up here. LPPL 2100 is taught by Professor Tim Davis, who is an expert on resilience, group dynamics, and leadership development. While it doesn't fulfill a curricular requirement because, as Anne mentioned, our classes have to be over 3,000 level for them to count, these classes are a great way to build leadership and critical skills. It'll help you build skills for transitioning into college, which we know can be a big change as well. It's a great way also just to sample some of our leadership curriculum. LPPL 2600 is a course that fulfills the social psychology prerequisite for the BA and the minor. It's Batten's flavor of social psych, so how social influence, perception, and interaction, which essentially is interpersonal relationships, affect individual and group behavior. LPPP 2200 is Intro to Public Policy, which is a prerequisite for our major, and it's also a required class in the minor curriculum. In this class, you learn about policy formation and how to write a policy memo. For the fall, it is currently full, but you can join the waitlist, and it's also offered in the spring, so you could take it the following semester as well. Entrepreneurship 1010 is a class that'll open up the application for the SE minor as well. Here we have a list of some of our special topic, which are essentially just elective courses, where you can really dive into specific policy areas. Any of these would also be appropriate to take your first year at UVA. The first class is a core social entrepreneurship course and can be considered an elective in our major and public policy and leadership minor. You'll also see up here courses in national security, police community relations, youth policy, diplomacy, healthcare, and these courses change semester by semester. We also typically offer coursework in humanitarian aid and global development, education policy, nonprofit management, international law and policy, and others. We'd also be glad to give you a description more on any of these courses, so feel free to ask about them in the Q&A as well.
Okay, that was a ton of information. you will have opportunities to hear it again. So I noted that we do info sessions at summer orientation. Check your schedule. Those are regular at each session. This fall, we will resume our regular admissions events and programming. Coming up first is an event that's aligned with Wahoo Welcome, which you will hear more about when you come to orientation if you haven't heard about it already. That's ongoing kind of onboarding programming to help introduce you to the university and its resources. We do a Batten Wahoo Welcome event that's very, very low-hanging fruit, super chill, very informal. Come have a cookie, come talk to some students, come get used to us and be in our beautiful Garrett Hall's Great Hall, and start thinking about whether it seems like a place for you. That'll happen on August 27th in the evening. The very best way to stay plugged in during the academic year is to use this QR code to fill out an inquiry form, and that enters your information into our system, but also subscribes you to our weekly newsletter, which contains a lot of information about events, helpful tips, links to our blog where we post lots of content and additional resources. Right now, there's a blog post up about how to hit the ground running at UVA this fall that reiterates a lot of the things we're talking about tonight. It also details important deadlines, has links to news stories. Truly, it's a wealth of information. It's just once a week. We promise not to spam you. In addition to our events, every Friday during the regular academic year, we host open walk-in office hours at Garrett Hall, where you can walk in without an appointment to speak with a Batten ambassador, who is a current student who can talk more about their experience in our programs and talk about Batten from the lens of the student experience. Admission staff also host daily in-person and virtual appointments. We have those monthly info sessions, social events. We have weekly Batten hours where our whole community comes together to discuss the policy events of the day and bring in experts. As application deadlines approach, we host application workshops to provide tips and feedback. So there are lots and lots of events, lots of points of engagement during the regular academic year that you will hear about through our newsletter or you can see on our events website. You can also reach out to me anytime directly. You can write to me directly at the email address that you see here, mulligan@virginia.edu, or our general email address that you see at the bottom of the slide. You're also welcome to write to Estrella. You can book appointments with us online through a booking link that opens up our schedule. So we try and make it as easy to access us as possible because we really do want to get to know you, answer your questions, provide you with whatever helpful feedback, help you make connections as you are exploring your path forward. So to that end, we're happy to answer questions. I think I just saw one pop up in the chat. So let me stop sharing here first. And let's see. Question number one. Are Batten courses different from general education courses, and where can I find Batten courses online? Good question. So Batten courses offered by the Batten School are not the College of Arts and Sciences general education courses. That said, if you become a Batten student, we do award, because your general education requirements are the same, we accept the college's courses that you've taken to fulfill gen eds, and some of our coursework we do also let them fulfill general education requirements. So for example, Introduction to Public Policy fulfills for Batten students the second writing requirement that you will have in the college. That's kind of hard to decipher in the abstract. Your academic advisor will help you kind of figure out which coursework fills which bucket. There's an online tool, Stellic, that you can actually do some course planning in yourself. You'll gain access to that a little bit later in your time at UVA. But the course list I find, and I don't know if this is the official UVA policy and okay to share, the best way to find out about courses I find is a site called Lose List, which was started by a prior STEMmy faculty member. He designed it, he coded it. It aggregates all of the available coursework in any given semester and also gives you access historically to back semesters so you can see what was offered in the past. That's the best way to kind of see what's current and what's available, but your advisor will also help you through that process. Let's see. What kind of international business opportunities are available to Batten grads, and how does the program help prepare students for those paths? I would say international business is probably less of a career destination for our graduates. More of our students who are working internationally either do it from a US centric lens, either through the State Department or through various diplomacy related roles, or directly for aid organizations, particularly around global development, humanitarian aid in those countries. Estrella, I don't know if you have more of a lens on maybe some of the international destinations of our graduates.
They tend to vary year by year. The only thing I would add in is there are some Batten courses that'll take students in or abroad to study. So that's a good opportunity if you want to get some of that experience there. And our alumni are also always more than willing to chat with students. So that's another kind of avenue if you have a specific postgrad destination that you're thinking about.
All right, next question. Is it possible to accelerate the bachelor's degree for Batten and apply in the spring of your first year? Yes, I should have noted that. The same principle applies. If you come in with almost a full year of credit, definitely get some dedicated course advising quickly to let your advisor know that you are interested in graduating early because you'll have to be pretty judicious in your course selection. But I would say in our school of our population of undergrad students, which are usually 120, 130 all told, maybe 3 to 5 students are actually intending to graduate in 3 years and churn through the degree more quickly and begin it at the end of their first year as they're entering their second year at UVA. What is the practical difference between the education of the undergraduate major and the accelerated master's? Asteria, do you want to take a stab at this one?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say the biggest difference is for PPL, you're going to get a lot more of the kind of theory when studying in this major versus for the accelerated MPP, you're going to get the theory and kind of background on policy. But because, again, we're a pre-professional school, we have a big focus on really applying that knowledge. So you're going to get a lot more hands-on opportunities to apply the skills that you're learning. For that accelerated MPP, the essentially capstone project is doing something called an applied policy project where you're working directly with an organization to basically solve and propose a policy fix to something they're having. So again, very hands-on opportunities where you're going to leave the program with a portfolio of policy experience that you've created.
Can you elaborate on the application process for the accelerated MPP program? What kinds of essays and expectations do you have for applicants? The applications for each of our programs are pretty similar in terms of the major and the accelerated grad path. We look for a couple of essay questions that are essentially getting to the heart of why Batten for you and what do you bring to the table as we think about crafting a varied experience, background, perspectives, crafting a community of students who will go on to be impactful in their lives, who are typically dedicated to service in some fashion, but who have very, very different interests. So there's no kind of one size fits all Batten student, but getting to the root of your why is really important for us. The other component that's super important is we're a school of leadership. We want to know the ways that you are a leader already. We want to see that you've kind of reflected on your developing strengths as a leader and found ways to apply those in real world settings to make an impact in some way. So we look at your resume in addition to your essays. We don't necessarily think that you should be president of some club or organization yet. You're only in your first or second or third year at UVA. And we know all of you were president of some organization at your high school. That's how you got here. What we really, really want to see is that reflection piece. So what are your skills? How are you finding ways to demonstrate them? That can be through any setting. That could be through work, it could be through internships, it could be in your family, it could be through research. So really the kind of getting to know you and the inner workings of you and what gets you excited is really important to see through your essays and your engagements. And then the third thing we look at is who are you as a student? So we'll look at your academic transcript. We ask for a couple of recommendations, one from an academic reference, so we get to know you as a student and your strengths and skills inside the classroom. We also have a lot of application resources. So as you get closer to that kind of point in your academic journey, you will give you an opportunity to get lots of feedback on your materials and ask lots of questions about what we're looking for. Let's see. I'm planning to major in biology. My SAT score placed me in the highest level first reading requirement. Is there any benefit to taking, whoa, the text is moving, higher level reading requirement class compared to lower ones since I am not an English major? I don't know. I think that is a good question for your academic advisor in the College of Arts and Sciences, who will have a better lens on general education stuff. I would say, nope, I'm not even going to hazard a guess. I'm not going to step into terrain that's not mine. That's a good question and one for your college advisor. And then the final question that I see, what undergrad majors do you most often see paired with the accelerated MPP? That's a great question. Estrella, that one's all yours.
Yeah, so what's really exciting about the Excel is we often see it paired with a variety of majors. So majors like economics or politics are certainly popular, but we'll also see students doing English or history. The biggest thing to kind of focus on is doing a major that you're passionate about, and then just making sure you have room in that final undergrad year to still fit in all of those accelerated Masters of Public Policy courses. So sometimes it can be helpful to kind of think ahead in terms of that, but there's no kind of straight path into the Excel program.
With that, what we'd love to really leave you with is, if this is exciting to you, if this is of interest, we want to throw the door open wide and continue the conversation. So certainly reach out to us this summer. We do have Zoom appointments available through the summer. We're happy to talk to incoming students. But from the moment you set foot on grounds later this summer or early this fall, we'll have lots and lots of ways for you to kind of get content and get plugged in and get to know us a little bit better. So I'm hopeful this is just the first conversation of many to come. But we really appreciate you tuning in and learning a little bit more about us. And we look forward to continuing that conversation with you. I'll turn it back over to Dave.
Let me get that mute button taken care of here. All right. Well, thank you very much. That was really enjoyable. And thanks for all the great questions from the participants. We really look forward to you being on grounds and can't wait to see you at orientation. I'll be there. So thank you, Estrella. Thank you, Anne. And we'll see you all at the next Wednesday webinar.